The death toll has finally passed 300 in the nation's deadliest fire since the Great Rapidash Inferno that killed over...
Friendly battle turned deadly after the confused Dragonite hyperbeamed a passing school bus.
The defendant is accused of having his hypno-use hypnosis on over 300 women.
Terrorists filled the bus with electrodes, then used explosion.
Is this what we want? I've loved Pokemon as long as I've been alive. Literally, the franchise was born the same year I was. I loved the anime, collected the cards, bought the toys and plushies, but obviously I love the games the most. When playing these games, I love my Pokemon more than my own family. If my sister and my Espeon were both dangling from a cliff, I was becoming an only child. Having Pokemon in real life is a dream that's captured people's minds since the Big Bang. And these days, science and technology are improving so rapidly, I decided it was time. Time to put aside climate change and AI and political instability and nuclear Armageddon and finally start asking the big questions. Is it possible to genetically engineer Pokemon? And if so, how many Vaporeons are you going to find? Humans have already been altering animal genes to create demonic abominations for thousands of years through a process called selective breeding. It's like an arranged marriage, but for animals, if the primary purpose of the marriage was to produce as many offspring as possible with particular traits. Hit the like button if you're a dog in a marriage like this. And although the difference between this regal creature and this eldritch nightmare is immense, selective breeding can only take us so far. It doesn't matter how skilled of a breeder you are, you're not going to be creating any Charmanders by trying to get a lizard to mate with an open flame. Trust me, I've tried. Thanks to modern science, we now have more tools in our gene editing toolkit than putting two animals in a room and playing smooth jazz. One of these tools is called CRISPR gene editing. CRISPR, besides being how I would describe my dead lizards, stands for Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats. That's not important to know, but at least now you can impress your friends with fancy science words. Or don't, I've already forgotten it. But how does it work? Do you even care? Well, you should if you want your own sweet, slick, sexy Vaporeon. CRISPR gene editing is like using cut and paste, but with your DNA. And since DNA are the literal building blocks of biology, it's not a stretch to say that CRISPR gene editing is like wielding the Infinity Gauntlet of biology. Okay, maybe a little. I don't know. I don't understand it. This is just one tool in a growing field called synthetic biology, the science of using engineering principles to build or modify new organisms. A field that I find so fascinating that I made this video just as an excuse to keep learning about it. Because I'm a galaxy-brained intellectual. And although most scientists in the field want to cure diseases or build better crops or something, neither of those sound nearly as cool as having your own fire-breathing dragon. And since the world is ending soon, we might as well have some fun on the way out. So let's put on our scientist coats and build ourselves a Charizard.
Go, Charizard!
So we're going to start with a Komodo dragon, give it the posture and build of a kangaroo, the coloration of this bearded dragon, and then add the wings of a golden eagle. Now, Komodo dragons are reptiles, which on average are not nearly as intelligent as us smarty-pants mammals. They're the big dum-dums of the animal kingdom, but they're still dangerous apex predators. So we're also going to give it the intelligence and temperament of a horse, so that it will better understand our commands, let us ride it, and try not to viciously eat everyone in sight. The trickiest part is going to be the fire breathing, because as anyone over the age of 6 knows, there are no animals that breathe fire in the real world. But there is something similar enough that we can work with. Meet the bombardier beetle. This cheeky little fella has the ability to shoot hot, noxious gas out of his ass. And unlike me, he doesn't need Taco Bell to do it. The beetle has glands that create and store 2 different chemicals that when combined produce this violent death fart. And since fire is just a different kind of chemical reaction, we're gonna take those glands from the beetle, tweak them so that they're 100 times bigger, and produce fire. And boom, we're done. What do we have so far? The resemblance is uncanny. We are still a long ways away from walking into a Build-A-Pokemon store and assembling one like a game of Spore. Not sure why anyone would want a Chikorita anyway. But there's nothing in the laws of physics that say that these creatures can't exist. Okay, that one would definitely be a stretch. That's enough!
Well, actually, animals can't levitate. Animals can't use telekinesis. Squirtle can't hold all that water inside of him. How do ghost Pokemon phase through walls, and what the fuck is an Aura Sphere?
Alright! Even with all the exciting tech on the horizon, it's likely going to be impossible to recreate all of the abilities and moves that every Pokemon could learn. To which I say, who gives a shit? You're telling me if you weren't offered a creature that looked exactly like a Vaporeon, but all because it couldn't shoot hundreds of gallons of water like a fire hose, that you're not going to accept it? That's cap! I know you would, you sick fuck! Engineering real animals that look like Pokemon is definitely something we're going to be able to do with the technology that's on the horizon. The question is, why would anyone do this? That's right, if there's money to be made, the market will provide it. So if you want to get your own Pokemon, look no further than today's sponsor, PokePets. Our scientists have been hard at work, pushing the boundaries of science and ethics to bring you the most game-accurate Pokemon ever created. For the first time in history, you can own a pet that looks virtually indistinguishable from your favorite pocket monsters. Who needs a boring old dog or cat when you can have a PokePet that'll keep you on your toes? Will it cuddle you, or will it bite you? Will it live for a week, or just a couple of days? The excitement never ends. And remember, no two PokePets are exactly alike because we're not even sure how this works. PokePets, your wildest pet guaranteed.
Disclaimer, Pokepets are not guaranteed to resemble any known creature. Side effects may include mild discomfort, nightmares, existential dread. Pokepets may not be suitable for adults, children, or anyone with a heartbeat. Purchase at your own risk.
Having my very own Espeon would make the boy in me die and go to Lavender Town, even if it couldn't telekinetically fly me around the room. I'm okay with that. I don't need the powers. But what if? Now that we've gone through all that boring science, it's time to take our fancy scientist coats off and put on our childhood hats of wonder and excitement and imagine how cool it would be to have real, fully powered Pokemon in the real world. It would be a fucking nightmare. First of all, these little things are living, breathing, natural disasters. Pokemon can cause earthquakes, hurricanes, blizzards, thunderstorms, sandstorms, wildfires, avalanches, Pokemon that explode. Tyranitar allegedly destroys entire mountains just to create a nest. Imagine going on a lovely hike with your family, but you failed to notice the Tyranitar warning signs. Bye-bye! Grimer and Muck are literally living biohazards that kill all plant life around them. It would become routine for normal societal infrastructure to just stop working. Magneton, just by existing, disrupts all mechanical equipment nearby. Aeron uses bridges and railroad tracks as food. And ground Pokemon would cause widespread sinkholes, cave-ins, earthquakes, just by existing. Sorry I'm late for work. Those little rascals were eating the subway track again, and then as soon as it started moving, the whole tunnel collapsed. Some Pokemon go out of their way to fuck with people. Beware regularly hugs its trainers to death. Purloin steals for fun. Drifloon abducts children. Ghost types will either give you PTSD, straight up kill you, or steal your fucking soul. You can't even escape this horror by sleeping because Pokemon will invade your dreams and give you nightmares.
Nightmare, 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 nightmare.
And then there's the world-ending Pokemon. Slugma and Macargo are hotter than the surface of the sun. Any sizable population of these things will just make entire parts of the Earth's surface uninhabitable. And if that wasn't bad enough, Gardevoir can create black holes and just destroy the whole planet. And everything I just said is just from them existing in the world. It has nothing to do with us meddling with them. And you know that we would. Just like the Pokemon world, in our world, Pokemon are going to be heavily involved in our society. And these things are way too powerful to be trusted in adult hands, let alone children. Imagine coming home from a long day of work and finding a thrashing Gyarados where your house used to be. Because your daughter brought home a Magikarp and fed it rare candies until it exploded and crushed her instantly. Pokemon-related accidents would overtake heart disease as the leading cause of death worldwide. Hands down. And most landlords would have to implement no Pokemon policies, or at the very least, no fire-type policies. And then there's the danger of Pokemon exploitation. There's no possible way that we're gonna have these things around and not exploit them for our own ends. We'd have Pokemon used as physical labor slaves, electric types used as energy generating slaves, Pokemon used as weapons of war. There would be an epidemic of mistreated Pokemon going on psychotic killing sprees. What do you think would happen if you got cornered by a gang of angry Machamps? I don't know about you, but I'd get the living shit beaten out of me. Some Pokemon have IQ in the thousands. Imagine an Abra raised in a shitty environment, getting mistreated by people, that then grows up to be a hyper-intelligent, telepathic, telekinetic Alakazam. We're talking about an evil god here. And they don't even have to be evil. What if all the Alakazams got together and just decided, you know what, we don't want to take orders from these stupid humans? Or they think that humans are a threat to the earth. They could get rid of us, no problem. And even assuming that the Pokemon themselves don't want to get rid of us, people love killing each other, and they're going to use Pokemon to do that too. Forget about school shooters. Mass murdering Pokemon trainers are the real threat. Any psycho with a Voltorb can just blow himself up in public. Poke-terrorism. Pokemon would have to be tightly regulated in order to prevent the powerful ones from getting in the wrong hands. But unless all wild Pokemon are either caught or hunted to extinction, there's no possible way that the government's going to be able to control all this violence if any kid can just wander into the woods and befriend a weapon of mass destruction.
You're my friend.
And you're mine.
Hell, I didn't even mention the legendaries who can destroy the universe itself. There are over 1,000 different species of Pokemon, and you could literally spend hours just trying to speculate all the different implications each one would have for the real world. I think introducing Pokemon into our world would be a civilization-ending oopsie. But I think it could be very different if Pokemon were here from the very beginning and we developed alongside them. Maybe we would be living in harmony with them and society would be all good and egalitarian or some bullshit like that, where the only problem is Poke thieves and the occasional world-ending threat. That's certainly possible, but I think it's far more likely that society wouldn't have developed in the first place. That's it for this video. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. It really means a lot. Comment below if there's any wacky Pokemon situations that you can think of that I didn't. And lastly, did you know that in terms of male human and female Pokemon breeding, Vaporeon